Okay, so this time, let's proceed on applying the steps through examples. So we are going to solve here quadratic equation by using completing the square. So let's have example number 1. So we do have the given, for example, x squared minus 2x minus 3 is equal to 0. So the first thing you're going to do when there's a given quadratic equation and you are asked to solve that quadratic equation by completing the square is to do it first or arrange it first in a form wherein the constant term is on the right side of the equation. So the first thing you're going to do is to move this constant term to the right side of the equation. So when you do that, we'll have x squared minus 2x minus equal to positive 3, because when you move negative 3 to the right side, it will become positive 3. Then from there, we are going to apply b over 2 quantity squared. So what's the purpose of that expression of b over 2 quantity squared? The purpose of that is to make this binomial on the left side of the equation a perfect square trinomial. That means we are going to add a certain number there, particularly on that left side and also on the right side, to make that left side a perfect square trinomial. We can do that by applying the expression b over 2 quantity squared. What is that b that we are pertaining to? So we are pertaining to the numerical coefficient. So the numerical coefficient of A is 1 while C is negative 3. So the B that we are pertaining to is negative 2. So all you have to do, substitute it to the given expressions. We do have negative 2, divide by 2. This is in place of B, negative 2, then quantity squared. Negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. And negative 1 squared is 1. So that means that number 1 is the number to be added on both sides of the equation to make the left side perfect square trinomial. So it will become x squared minus 2x plus 1 equal to 3 plus 1. So, ito yung number na nakuha natin dito kanina. Ang ginamit natin yung b over 2 quantity squared. So, that number is to be added on both sides of the equation. So, in that case, this left side is already a perfect square trinomial. So, ano bang factors niyan? Ang factors ng perfect square trinomial ay square of binomial. So, how are you going to factor it? You simply get the square root of the first term and get the square root of the last term. And look at the operation of the middle term. So that forms the factors of it. Then that binomial factor is to be squared. So square root of x squared is x. The operation of the middle is minus. The square root of 1 is 1. Then quantity squared. Then it will be equal to 3 plus 1. That would be 4. Then since we are already in this form of the equation, so natatandaan ba yung nag-solve tayo ng extracting the roots? So we are going to treat this binomial inside as one term. So for us to eliminate 2 here, we're going to get the square root of both sides of the equation. So in that case, that square root sign together with this 2 will be eliminated. So may iwan ngayon ay x minus 1 is equal to square root of 4. That would be positive negative 2. Diba? When we apply extracting the roots, when we get the square root of a certain number, that is not just the positive root, but also the negative root of it. Then from here, so we are going to now solve for its solution. So we can now move this constant term to the right side of the equation. So in that case, magpo-form tayo ng dalawang equation by separating this plus or minus. So we do have here x is equal to 1 plus 2, then the other one is x is equal to 1 minus 2. Nakakasunod tayo so far? So, ito yung plus, ito yung minus na nanggaling dito. So, when we move negative 1 to the right side of the equation, it's either we move it before, after 2, or before the plus or minus. Pero mas maganda kung before or plus or minus para pag sinulat natin siya, pinaghiwalay natin yung plus or minus sign, that would be the operation of it. So, now let's solve for the value of the variable. For x sub 1, here, we do have 1 plus 2, which is equal to 3. So, that would be our first solution. Now, for x sub 2, that would be equal to 1 minus 2. So, that would be equal to negative 1. So, the solution to the given quadratic equation are 3 and negative 1. So, we solve that by using completing the square. Using the method na tinatawag natin completing the square. So, kung medyo naguguluhan pa kayo, let's try to answer another example. Okay, let's have this example now. So, that would be number 2. X squared plus 10x is equal to negative 16. So, in the case of example number 2, so it's already arranged in the right form of the equation so that we can use right away the method na tinatawag nating completing the square. So that means we are going to look right away for the number to be added on both sides of the equation. And that is by using again b over 2 quantity squared. So what would be the value of b? The value of b is 10. So that the b that we are pertaining to, that is the numerical coefficient of the linear term. So b is 10, substitute it to the equation. So that would be 10 divided by 2 quantity squared. So 10 divided by 2, that would be 5, then quantity squared. So 5 times 5, that's not 5 times 2, that's 5 times 5 will be 25. So that number 25, that is the number to be added on both sides of the equation. The purpose of that is to make this left side a perfect square trinomial. So let's do it. So that would be x squared plus 10x plus 25 is equal to negative 16 plus 25. So, we added 25 on both sides of the equation. So, in that case, this left side is already a perfect square trinomial. Meaning to say, the factors of it are square of binomial. So, all we have to do is get the square root of the first and get the square root of the last, then look at the operation of the middle term. Because the square root of first and last, together with the operation of the middle, will form the binomial factors of that perfect square trinomial. So we do have square root of x squared is x, the operation of the middle is plus, but the square root of the last term is 5. Then quantity squared. So, its factors are square of binomial. Then it will be equal to negative 16 plus 25 is equal to 9. Then from there, we are now on a case wherein we can make use of extracting the roots. So that is by getting the square root of both sides of the equation. Then cancel the square root sign because that's the perfect root of it. Then what will be left is x plus 5. Then it will be equal to, since 9 is a perfect square, that will be positive, negative 3 as the root of 9. Then, we're not yet through because x here still has 5 here. So you have to move 5 to the right side of the equation. When we do that, it will come up, it will become x is equal to negative 5 is plus or minus 3. Negative 5 plus or minus 3. So from here, this plus or minus here, we are going to separate them. And that's form two equations na sineparate yung plus or minus. So let's do it here. So we do have here, the first equation is x is equal to negative 5 plus 3, while the other one is x is equal to negative 5 minus 3. Again, this is the plus and this is the minus na kinuha natin dito, na pinaghiwalay natin. Then, let's solve for the solutions now. So, we do have the x sub 1. The first solution has negative 5 plus 3. So, recalling your operations on integers. So, we come up here with an answer as negative 2. While for the second solution, we do have here x is equal to, so x sub 2, negative 5 minus 3. So that would be equal to negative 8. So therefore, the solutions to the given quadratic equation na x squared plus 10x is equal to negative 16 are negative 2 and negative